Shadows of intent. Naomi. Pierce adjusted her glasses and smoothed down her navy blazer as the elevator climbed to the 87th floor of the Everest Holdings Tower. The glass capsule offered a panoramic view of London that most would find breathtaking. But Naomi's eyes remained fixed on her reflection, rehearsing the carefully constructed persona she'd spent months perfecting. "Remember why you're here," she whispered to herself, clutching the leather portfolio containing her impeccable and partially fabricated dash credentials. The doors slid open to reveal a minimalist reception area of white marble and brushed steel. A sleek digital sign pulsed with the company's motto, "Beyond Limits, Beyond Horizons." "Miss Pierce?" The receptionist smiled. "Mr. Harrington is ready for you." Naomi nodded, her heart hammering against her ribs. 6 months of planning had led to this moment, infiltrating the inner sanctum of Theodore Harrington, a 35-year-old tech billionaire whose quantum encryption algorithms had revolutionized digital security and made him one of the most powerful men in the world. It's the same man whose corporate tactics had driven her father to financial ruin and ultimately suicide 3 years ago. She was led through a series of corridors to a surprisingly modest office. Theodore Harrington wasn't what she expected. Tall and lean, he wore a simple black sweater rather than the expected bespoke suit. His features were sharp, but softened by expressive hazel eyes that seemed to evaluate her with unsettling precision. "Naomi Pierce." His voice was quieter than she'd imagined. "Your paper on asymmetric cryptography was brilliant. Please, sit." The interview proceeded like a chess match. Theodore's questions were incisive, designed to test not just her knowledge, but her way of thinking. Naomi had prepared for this. She actually was a gifted cryptographer, having graduated top of her class at MIT. Her deception lay not in her qualifications, but in her intentions. "Your solution to the Harmon sequence vulnerability was elegant," he said, referencing her most recent published work. "But I'm curious, why did you choose to protect the back channel rather than reinforcing the primary authentication?" Naomi felt a rush of genuine enthusiasm despite herself. "Because attackers expect the fortress, not the secret passage. Sometimes the most effective security isn't where people are looking." A smile flickered across his face. "Precisely. The kind of thinking we need here." He closed her file. "When can you start?" "Monday," she replied, hiding her triumph behind professional composure. Later that evening, in her small Southwark apartment, Naomi connected to a secure messaging platform. "I'm in," she typed to her contact at Justice Collective, the shadowy watchdog group that had approached her after learning of her connection to Harrington's past victims. They had promised to help her expose Theodore's alleged corporate espionage and data manipulation crimes they believed had ruined countless lives beyond her father's. "Perfect," came the reply. "Remember, we need access to the Prometheus Project files. That's where the evidence will be." Naomi stared at the rain-streaked window, watching London's lights blur into watercolor smudges. For 3 years she had carried the weight of her father's broken whispers. It was Harrington. He stole everything. Now she was finally positioned to uncover the truth. What she hadn't anticipated was Theodore's penetrating gaze, or the way he spoke about his work, as profit engines, but as solutions to human problems. It shouldn't matter. She reminded herself of her father's funeral, where she'd stood alone because they couldn't afford to invite anyone else. "I'll find what we need," she typed back, closing her laptop with quiet determination. Monday would begin. Her double life, trusted cryptographer by day, corporate spy by night. What she didn't yet realize was that Theodore Harrington was playing a more complex game than anyone suspected, one that would challenge everything she thought she knew about him, about her father, and ultimately about herself. Code of Trust. Theodore's workspace reflected his mind-organized chaos. Whiteboards filled with equations surrounded Naomi as she settled into her role at Everest Holdings. Her desk sat in a corner of his private research lab, a privilege she hadn't expected. "Security isn't just algorithms," Theodore explained during her second week, leaning against her desk. "It's understanding human nature, what people protect, and why." Naomi's fingers paused over her keyboard. "Most people protect what they fear losing. And what do you protect, Naomi? His question carried unexpected weight. She met his gaze steadily. The truth. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps. That's why you're here. The Prometheus Project needs someone who values truth above comfort. The Prometheus Project. Her target. Naomi maintained her composure while her pulse quickened. Over the following weeks, Theodore pulled her deeper into his world. The project wasn't what Justice Collective had described, not a data manipulation scheme, but a revolutionary encryption protocol designed to protect personal privacy from corporate surveillance. Theodore's passion, when he spoke of it, was palpable. His hands animating the air as he described a world where individuals controlled their own data. The system will be impenetrable, he told her late one evening, both of them surrounded by empty coffee cups. But we need to test it against someone who thinks differently. Someone like me, Naomi said, understanding, dawning. His smile was warm, exactly like you. That night, her secure message to Justice Collective was terse. Need more time. Project. Not what we thought. Get the files, came the immediate response. Your father deserves justice. As autumn deepened into winter, Naomi's certainty began to fracture. One rainy evening, she followed Theodore to an unmarked building in East London. Using the skills Justice Collective had taught her, she slipped. Inside after him, what she discovered shattered her preconceptions. A rehabilitation center for former inmates, funded entirely by Theodore's personal fortune. As she watched from the shadows, he sat with the residents, listening to their stories without judgment, offering not charity, but opportunity. Everyone deserves a second chance. She overheard him tell a young man with haunted eyes, what matters isn't who you were, but who you choose to become. The words followed her home, echoing against her conscience. That night, she stared at the encrypted drive Justice Collective had given her, the tool meant to extract Everest's secrets. The face in her mirror looked increasingly like a stranger's. Meanwhile, her access to Theodore's inner world expanded. He shared meals with her, discussed books and philosophy, revealed his troubled childhood under the shadow of his brilliant but cold father. Never once did he mention romance, yet something more profound grew between them, intellectual intimacy. The rare joy of being fully understood. Why did you really hire me? She asked him once. Theodore considered her question carefully. Because you see patterns others miss, including, I suspect, patterns about me. His perceptiveness was unnerving. How much did he know? Yet still he trusted her with increasingly sensitive access, including parts of Prometheus that could make or break Everest Holdings. The night she finally accessed the secure server room, guilt weighed on her like lead. The files downloaded to her drive. Years of Theodore's work now in her hands. Justice Collective would have everything they needed to destroy him. But would justice for her father come at the cost of destroying something good? Theodore's Prometheus Project could protect millions from the very kind of exploitation that had harmed her family as she disconnected the drive. A quiet voice behind her said, I wondered when you'd come for those. Theodore stood in the doorway, his expression not angry, but unutterably sad. Naomi's world collapsed into that single moment of truth. Encryption broken? How long have you known? Naomi asked, the drive heavy in her palm. Theodore stepped into the server room, closing the door behind him. Since your interview, your credentials were flawless, but you asked about our security protocols. With too much precision. He moved to the window overlooking nighttime London. What I couldn't understand was why. Until I researched your father, William Pierce. Hearing her father's name from Theodore's lips made Naomi's chest tighten. Then you know why I'm here. Know what you believe, he corrected gently. That Everest Holdings destroyed your father's company and stole his research, Theodore gestured. 2. A terminal. Access file? WHR 447. It's not protected. Suspicion warred with curiosity as Naomi typed the command. The screen filled with documents, internal memos, financial records, and security footage dating back for years. Your father wasn't ruined by Everest, Theodore said quietly. He was being systematically targeted by Daedalus Technologies. Tried to help him. The evidence unfolded before her communications showing Theodore had reached out to William Pierce repeatedly, offering partnership, protection. Her father had refused, convinced Everest was behind his troubles. The final communication was dated 1 week before his death, a desperate voicemail from Theodore that went unanswered. "Why would Daedalus target him?" Naomi whispered, her reality realigning painfully. "Gosh, your father discovered their backdoor into global banking systems. The same vulnerability Prometheus is designed to fix." Theodore's voice held no accusation, only a profound weariness. Daedalus is Justice Collective's primary funder. They don't want justice, they want to ensure Prometheus never launches. The betrayal cut in multiple directions. Naomi felt herself drowning in revelations. Why show me this? Why not have me arrested? Theodore approached, stopping at arm's length away. "Because you deserve the truth. And because, despite everything, I trust your judgment." He extended his hand. "Keep the drive. Review everything. Decide for yourself what justice looks like." His words hit her with the force of absolution she didn't deserve. Tears burned behind her eyes as he continued. "Whatever you decide, I'll help you clear your father's name. That offer stands regardless of what you do with that drive." In that moment, something fundamental shifted between them. Theodore wasn't offering forgiveness, he was offering understanding. The distinction broke something in Naomi that had been calcified by grief and vengeance. "I don't understand," she managed. "Why would you help me after what I tried to do?" Smile was tinged with his own private sorrow. "Because I know what it's like to be consumed by the need for answers. To build your entire identity around a single purpose." He gestured to the empire around them. "All of this began as my way of proving something to a father who never saw me. I understand the prison of the past, Naomi. I wouldn't leave anyone there if I could help them escape." He walked to the door, pausing before he left. "Take the week. Think. When you're ready, whatever you decide, I'll be here." Alone in the server room, Naomi clutched the drive containing both Theodore's secrets and her father's truth. For the first time in 3 years, she allowed herself to weep not for what she'd lost, but for what she'd almost thrown away in the name of a vengeance built on lies. Decryption Key Justice Collective's headquarters occupied a converted warehouse in Bristol. Far from London's financial district, Naomi hadn't told them she was coming. The drive in her bag contained carefully selected files, evidence of Daedalus. Technology's manipulation, but nothing that would compromise Prometheus. "This is unexpected," said Director Jameson, the silver-haired man who'd recruited her. His office was meticulously organized, walls covered with newspaper clippings about corporate malfeasance. "So was discovering that you work for the people who actually destroyed my father," Naomi replied evenly. Jameson's expression didn't change. "Harrington got to you." "I'm disappointed but not surprised. He's persuasive. The evidence got to me." Naomi placed a tablet on his desk, including financial transfers from Daedalus to Justice Collective. "You never wanted justice. You wanted Prometheus stopped because it would cut off your access to personal data. Data that serves the greater good," Jameson countered. "Corporations like Everest hoard wealth and power. Sometimes fighting them requires... compromise." "You mean becoming exactly like them?" Naomi stood. "I'm done being your tool." Jameson's smile turned cold. "Your father made similar declarations before his unfortunate decision. The apple doesn't fall far." Implication froze Naomi's blood. "What did you just say?" "William Pierce became a liability." Jameson shrugged. "Some problems solve themselves when people are desperate enough." Something primal and fierce rose. In Naomi, she activated the recording function on her watch, another of Theodore's creations. "Say that again. Clearly this time." Jameson's laugh held no humor. "You have nothing, Naomi. No proof. No allies. Walk away while you can." She leaned forward. "I have everything, including this conversation. Theodore Harrington has the rest." "You're finished." Fear flickered across Jameson's face, the first genuine emotion she'd seen from him. "Harrington is bluffing. He's been 3 steps ahead from the beginning." Naomi moved toward the door. "The authorities have already received copies of all the evidence. I just needed to hear you confirm it." Outside, Rain washed the streets clean as Naomi walked away from Justice Collective forever. Her phone vibrated. With a text from Theodore, "It's done. Daedalus executives are being questioned. Are you all right?" She wasn't, not yet. But for the first time since her father's death, she could envision a path forward. Back in London 3 days later, she found Theodore in his office, working late as usual. He looked up as she entered, his expression carefully neutral. "I heard about Jameson's arrest," she said. "Thank you. Your recording was the final piece we needed." Theodore set down his tablet. "What happens now is your choice, Naomi." She took a deep breath. "I spent 3 years defining myself by what I'd lost. Building walls to protect a mission that was based on lies. Meeting his gaze took courage. I want to work on Prometheus properly this time, not to atone, but because it matters, because it might prevent others from experiencing what happened to my father." Theodore studied her face. "The project needs someone who understands both sides of security, the technical and the human. Someone who knows how protection can become a prison. Is that a yes?" she asked. His smile reached his eyes this time. "It's an invitation to partnership." The words settled between them, carrying possibilities neither had allowed themselves to consider until now. "I'd like that," Naomi said softly. "A partnership built on truth." Theodore extended his hand, and when she took it, the connection felt like the beginning of a new encryption, one built to protect something precious just beginning to form between them. New algorithms spring arrived in London, bringing with it the launch of the Prometheus protocol. The financial world buzzed with speculation about the system that promised to revolutionize data privacy. Theodore had remained characteristically private about the details, which only intensified public curiosity. "They're calling you a technological messiah," Naomi remarked, scrolling through news coverage on her tablet. They sat in Theodore's rooftop garden, a secret oasis 17 stories above the city. Theodore grimaced. "Exactly what we don't need. Messiahs get crucified. I'd rather be the invisible guardrail that prevents the fall." 6 months had transformed. Their partnership, had evolved into friendship, and recently into something neither rushed to define. They moved carefully, to people accustomed to protecting themselves, now learning the vulnerable art of trust. "The William Pierce Foundation launches next week," Theodore said, changing the subject. "The scholarship committee needs your final approval on the candidates." Naomi nodded, emotion tightening her throat. The foundation would support students from disadvantaged backgrounds studying cryptography and data ethics, a living legacy that honored her father's work while creating something new. "I think he would have liked this better than vengeance," she said quietly. Theodore's hand found hers. "Justice and vengeance aren't the same. You got justice. The difference is that justice heals while vengeance just creates new wounds." The Prometheus launch event transformed the Tate Modern into a showcase of ethical technology. Goss Theodore addressed the gathering of international business leaders and journalists. Naomi watched from the side of the stage, pride mingling with a deeper feeling she was finally ready to acknowledge. "Privacy isn't secrecy," Theodore was saying. "Privacy is the right to reveal yourself on your own terms. Technology should preserve that fundamental human dignity, not exploit it." His eyes found hers in the crowd, and something passed between them, recognition of how far they'd come, how much they'd risked and gained. Later, guests circulated beneath installations representing data transformation. Naomi slipped away to the balcony overlooking the Thames. Theodore joined her minutes later, loosening his tie with a relieved sigh. "Ready to vanish?" he asked, his public persona falling away. "Absolutely." They took the river path away from the crowds, London's lights reflecting on the water beside them. "I have a confession," Theodore said as they walked. "The day you came for those files, I was terrified you'd leave. It's not because of the project, but because he stopped, searching for words. Naomi turned to him, because we still had chapters to write." His smile was worth every painful truth they'd navigated. "Exactly that. When I was planning to destroy you," she said carefully, "I created this narrative about who you were. The ruthless billionaire, the man without conscience. It was easier than seeing the complexity. We all do it," Theodore acknowledged. "Create ciphers of people rather than seeing them fully." They paused at a quiet bend in the river path. London's skyline created a panorama of possibility before them. The hardest walls to break aren't in encryption systems, Naomi said. They're the ones we build inside ourselves. The ones that say we can't be vulnerable, can't be wrong, can't change. Theodore's hand found hers again, their fingers interlacing naturally. Yet here we are, walking proof that the most sophisticated defense systems can still be breached. The right person, she added softly. His free hand gently turned her face toward his. With the right intentions, their kiss was not a beginning, but a continuation, an acknowledgement of the complex algorithm they'd been building together. One where betrayal had somehow calculated into trust, where separate paths had converged into a shared journey. Later, that night, in Theodore's penthouse above the city that had witnessed their transformation, Naomi traced the line of his jaw as he slept. Her father had once told her that the most beautiful codes were those that could turn chaos into meaning. She understood now what he meant. The woman who had arrived at Everest Holdings with vengeance in her heart had been dismantled and rebuilt not by Theodore's design, but by his willingness to see her completely and still choose her. By his radical act of giving her the truth when he could have sought retribution. "What are you thinking?" Theodore murmured, his eyes still closed. Naomi smiled. "That some walls need to fall." He pulled her closer, their futures encrypting into one shared possibility, a code written together. Protected not by walls, but by the strength of what they'd overcome to find each other. In the morning, they would return to the work of changing the world. But for now, in the quiet hours of night, they savored the most revolutionary achievement of all. To people who had learned that the greatest security comes not from barriers, but from the courage to remain open despite knowing exactly how much there is to lose.